Dr. Jazz.
But cool, Frank. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, you're quite welcome, man.
We could not meet in person since I'm in Europe.
Yeah.
But I've listened to your music for such a long time, and I wanted to start off with like I listened on YouTube like some small footage of your like organ trio and a quartet, and there was like from last year like a septet, and I wanted to ask you whether you're preparing something new as a band leader, all these different lineups, and what's the process there with you?
It's just interesting. It's like I played with so many bands that I'm now just recently getting the opportunity to deal with my own bands. And I have about 20 different ensembles,
Oh,
But Spike has been very gracious in that he lets me do my different ensembles to keep them tight in order to get gigs to maybe record. So I basically use Smalls as a big paid rehearsal ground.
yeah. But are you planning to record any of this stuff like in studio, or like what's the plan here?
Well, it's a lot of now with what's happening with the record companies.
Yeah.
That a lot of guys doing records on their own, and I can't really afford to do that now. But I've been offered to do a record on a ESP disc, so I'm thinking about doing that.
Oh,
with a
fantastic.
quintet.
Wow, beautiful.
Mhm.
And you're writing new music still, right? I mean,
Right now, I'm always in the process of writing some music, but basically right now I've just been teaching. This past semester, I'm the lecturer of the history of African American music at the Manhattan School of Music.
oh, beautiful. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
Uh,
In
w-
fact,
w-
some of my students,
yeah,
in fact, some of my students, a lot of my students was from Europe, some from Serbia actually.
really? Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know because of writing, I wanted to ask you, what's your process there? I love your old stuff like Requiem and Apostle Man from that first one, and
Wow, you've really listened to. Okay,
oh,
yes,
sure, man. Yeah. I love
yeah.
that stuff. It's beautiful.
I My process is mainly God inspired to a big extent, but I do some basic composition techniques, like arranging,
Yeah.
arrange melody derived composition and chord changes derived compositions. It's a painstaking process.
Yeah. It's like many times the melody, right? I mean, when I listen to the
Yes,
small,
melody, most melody, yeah.
yeah, when I listened to the
Okay.
last small stuff, I saw you had like small, like sheets. I don't know if that they were. I think they were handwritten probably because they were like on small paper.
Yes, I'm old school. I was born in 1958. I really haven't learned the computer thing yet, as you can see.
It's
But
beautiful. Yeah.
I learned to write pretty fast. But I've been at Smalls. I've done a trio,
Yeah.
quartet. In fact, two different quartets. One is going to be playing on June the 6th.
Oh, fantastic.
Sextet, septet.
Yeah.
Or I have a classical ensemble that we do. It's like two drum sets,
Oh, beautiful.
bass and cello, and three horns, and the trombonist, which I'm hoping. I was waiting to hear from Christian McBride. I thought I was going to have a spot on this year's festival.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot the name of the festival. Newport Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Waiting to hear from it, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I look at these bands that you have, or the last one that I heard from you, Live from Smalls. you always now are in the role of a, you know, the elderly band leader and getting younger cats into your band.
Yes,
Like,
it's what it seems, right? It's what it seems.
yeah,
As yeah, the younger guys, they are more available to rehearse, you know, and so many are coming out to schools that are playing so good that all you got to do is just put them together and they, you know, and just fashion some creativity in an ensemble from them.
yeah.
It's very rewarding.
How do you see yourself as a band leader now, your progress as a band leader, you know, and when you present the music to the guys, and like, how does that work for you?
They it's enough interesting music that I can keep them interested, you know.
Okay, that's important.
But I just like doing different jazz ensembles, you know.
Yeah,
Different. Sometimes I'm kind of tired of the saxophone, trumpet, frontline jazz. You know, I just think that jazz needs some more color. You know,
yeah,
different type of ensembles, and I like playing in different ensemble settings. Maybe that's because I've played with so many people. You know,
yeah. That's good
come
for you as a composer and a player, I guess, to have the variety,
yeah,
right? That's really
yeah,
cool. Yeah,
yeah. And I got to play with some great ensembles. You know, I remember like Henry Threadgill or
oh
Blakey
man,
Jazz Mess.
yeah, I
You
want to
know,
ask you about that. Yeah, sure.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I love that stuff, man. That this is like, you know, the stuff with Henry. That's whew. And Lester, of course, obviously. I mean, that's
yeah, well, Lester, I'm really grateful for Lester because that was the I have first time I left the country, you know, and played in Europe was with Lester Bowie's Brass Fantasy. Amazing man.
oh,
In fact, we supposed to be doing some things in the fall. They're trying to put the band back together to do some things. I'm
oh,
looking forward to that.
wow, that's amazing, beautiful. Yeah, with all the cats from that band. Yeah, I mean, many are still really active, right? And that's nice
Hmm.
to see. Yeah,
Most of them are, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you know, I wanted to ask, just to go a little bit back. You know,
Okay.
you said you're old school and 58 born, so that means you know what was the moment for you? Obviously, your father uh, played guitar and he's on your first record, and your
Yeah.
parents have been a huge musical influence for you. But
Yes, yes.
what got you inspired for jazz primarily? Do you remember a moment? Did you see like a live gig or listen to a record that you said like, oh shit,
Well,
I want to do that?
yeah. I think it was around late in 1978 when I was studying physics then, and
Oh wow.
to I decided to see where I stood as a musician. You know, so I left Texas and went to the Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts, to see where I stood, and I stood okay. So I said, well, let me keep going on, and the rest is history.
Yeah. How was Berkeley like for you? I mean, it,
Man, it was the thing is, I was a very they call it the golden period of Berkeley because there were so many musicians that are well known now that we were all there together, like myself and Branford Marcellus and
mm,
Wallace Rowan,
oh wow.
Jeff Watts, Greg Osby, Donald Harrison, John Toussaint, um, Clark Gayton,
Wow.
um, Aaron Hike, Dave Douglas, Dave Kukowski. Who else?
Man, that's a crew.
Michelle Farrell, Victor Bailey.
Wow.
Who else? Woo. We were all there together, like studying with each other, just practicing and jam sessioning all the time. So we didn't know that we was gonna make this much of an impact on the music and jazz scene in the years after. But I guess it was just that time. I was at the right place at the right time in history. You
Yeah,
know.
probably, yeah. What was the main trigger that you decided to leave physics and go to music? Like just to see if you can make it actually or pull it off, or like, I mean, what was
Yes,
the
that and through my study of physics, I became convinced that music is a higher science than physics. You know,
mm,
The Sufis refer to it as the divine science. That you can't smell music, You can't see music. You can only see the music on the paper or the writings on the paper. You can't touch music. You can't, you can't taste music. The only way that music comes to your body is through your ears, through listening.
Mhm.
And I think it deals with certain invisible intangibles that most artists say that what we do is an art form. I totally disagree. I think what we do is a science, a high science,
Mm.
which is vocabulary and language all intact.
Yeah,
That's
wow, beautiful put, man. Yeah, yeah, it's a language. I mean, I studied languages, and when I teach now, and I tell every student, improvise. It's a language. Just choose your words, make sentences, and make a story, and
yes.
it makes so much sense than actually what we do. So,
First medium of music, yes.
yeah,
Good.
yeah. When did you move to New York? Actually, I mean, you've been a mainstay of the New York jazz scene, like for
Yeah, I actually moved to New York in the summer of 1981.
wow.
Yeah, to play with Slide Hampton's World of Trombones, actually.
Mm.
And actually, I got to stay with the great Slide. I got to live with the great Slide Hampton for about 3 or 4 months before I got my own spot. And that was a nice experience, studying with Slide on a level, being around him every day and seeing him practice. It was very inspiring. And actually, his trombone group, the World Trombone, is what inspired me to put together the Tromboniverse.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
The same instrumentation.
yeah. When you came to New York, like, what were the first connections you made, actually, or the first gigs that you started making? Do you remember that?
Actually, there was a trombonist great trombonist named I'll remember his name in a minute. He was doing a lot. He was doing a lot of gigs around New York, playing with a lot of big bands and stuff like that. His name is Bob Trowers. And I would get the sub for him. Even from a lot of gigs, I would sub for him. I became a sub, so I got to play with Jackie Bayard's Apollo Stompers band. I got to play with Frank Foster's Loud Minority. I got to play with Lionel Hampton. In fact, I was in the band Small Minute. Me and Terrence Blanchard was in the band together.
Wow, beautiful.
I got to play with it's through him, and then gigs just started coming in. Like Slide Hampton said, you don't have to worry about it. He said, if you're playing on a high level, don't worry, you'll get gigs.
Yeah, yeah. Like you mentioned Lester before, and how did you get that gig then? I mean,
actually, I was after Berkeley, I went to school at Rutgers. Rutgers Jazz Program, 1982 to like 1986, and in my last year there, like Steve Teray actually called me and said that he can't do this tour with this guy Lester Bowie, and he wanted me to sub for him, and so I got the sub for him, and after we did a 6-week tour, recorded the record at ECM.
Oh, the Avant Pop, yeah.
Avant Pop.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one, yeah.
Lester asked me to come, asked me to join the band. And that's when I became a member of Lester Bowie's Brass Fantasy as a prominent member. It was cool. Yeah.
How was it like working with him? I mean,
Lester, I don't know if you know about NBA basketball, American basketball.
Oh,
Lester,
man, come on.
Lester was kind of like a point guard,
Mm.
We were the rest of the team, and Lester was like the ball handler, He was a great band leader, taught me a lot about the business of music, but he treated the band like a basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I liked.
In what sense?
That we were a team.
Okay, yeah, that's important.
We were a team, and our play was to play good music, and Lester was the point guard, directing the traffic,
Yeah,
directing the offense or the defense, whatever you put it with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a collective play, music. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's for sure. When you went to Europe the first time with him, how was that like for you? I mean, we're talking about mid 80s when there was like still 6 zillion currencies in Europe and borders everywhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember going to Checkpoint Charlie. In fact,
Wow,
I
man.
think the first time I came to Yugoslavia, Serbia, or that area was with Lester Bowie.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I remember one time I'm on tour with Lester Bowie, Brass Fantasy, and we stopped at we had a gig in Serbia, and I think we stopped somewhere in the Balkans, and we stopped at this roadside place to eat, and we saw NATO jets fly over. You know.
Wow, man. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Exactly. That was like, yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy times. Yeah. I remember still. Wow. And you mentioned Henry. I mean, Threadgill. Kind of at the same time, you were also in his band, right? How did the story with Henry happen?
Well, the trumpet player who just passed away, named Rasul Sadiq, who was playing with Lester Bowie's Brass Fantasy. He also was playing with Henry Threadgill's sextet. And Henry said he needed a trombone player, so he hooked me up with Henry. And that's how that happened, you know. But I would say musically, that was one of the most challenging ensembles I put in my life.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how did you cope with Henry's music, you know, like, and, you know, how did he present the music to you guys?
Henry is a first-rate composer, and his music was, it really gives you the opportunity to express yourself within his extended or within his compositions.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't write chord changes, so there was not like chord changes, you know. There wasn't a piano, you know. You know, in a way, it was kind of like two bands in one, you know, because there was two drum sets, and you had a cello. So there would be like sometimes you would write the music with cello, trombone, and one drum set, and then him bass and another drum set with the trumpet in between. So there was a whole lot of different. Well, he basically used that ensemble as like a small orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
The percussion section with the two drum sets. We the horns, I guess we were the winds, and the strings was the cello and the bass. Kind of like Henry used to call it like the cheapest orchestra, you know.
Yeah, I love his compositions, man. Already that stuff, you know, what you guys did, it's so beautiful. And then he just extended. When I listen to the stuff he does now or has done in the last 10 years, man, that's just like
still going. I would say, I get some bias, but one of my favorite ensembles of his is the sextet, you know. But I get some bias because that's what he hired me to do, playing the sextet.
Oh, but it's a beautiful band also because, you know, Reggie Nicholson and Farron Aklaf playing, those two guys are just like.
And I'm also glad Henry is getting credit for being a composer now, because it's been well deserved, and they have been overlooking Henry for years.
Yeah.
You know. So that's very good, you know.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. It's I mean I try to talk to everyone who played with Henry, you know, like when I do these interviews, just to ask you guys how he was, and you know how he treated.
I'm just glad a lot of people still are asking about Henry, because he's a very incredible musician.
Yeah, definitely. Frank, I wanted to ask you, you know, when I look at the records I have you on at home, your late 80s must have been crazy, because I think you played with everyone, like you know, how did you get then all these gigs, you know?
In fact, it was like, from 1986 when I started with Lester, it really didn't stop until like the Obama administration. It really stopped until like about 2012, more or less. Yeah, because like I was really surprised when Downbeat contacted me and said they wanted to do a feature article on me. It was the first time and the only time. in in the history of Downbeat magazine, that a sideman was on the front cover
Yeah, I remember
of
that.
the jazz label. Yeah, and it was like, I don't know. I think it had a blessing and a curse. It gave me a lot of credit, but people always hire me. I just like to play in different situations. I even got a reggae band. I even have an Afro pop band. I even have a R&B band. And this friend of mine just passed away, and I'm going to be doing his rock music. So
Wow.
I don't, I don't. It's only just two types of music, good and bad. But answer your question, yeah, I was yeah, it really was a big. I really was playing with a lot of people. It even extended even more when I started playing with Roy Hargrove,
Oh
because
yeah, sure.
after that, through Roy Hargrove, I started playing a lot with a lot of the like 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, with a lot of the neo soul hip hop guys like D'Angelo and
Yeah.
Badu and Common and Kid Cudi Eric Benet. I think that's about it I can remember. And then I remember doing some stuff a little bit before that with Elvis Costello. So
Wow.
even though I've never got really a lot of notoriety as a band leader, I really feel comfortable in the fact that I could almost safely say that I'm probably the most widely idiomatically recorded musician of my generation.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm happy to say, blessed to say that I've actually been on the records of about 5 Grammy Awards right now. McCoy Tyner, two of McCoy Tyner's
Sure.
big band, Roy Hargrove Crusoe, the Mingus big band, and D'Angelo. So, I'm not bitter or anything. It's just going through this experience of life on Earth, and I'm really trying to concentrate on trying to get my own ensembles out, and I'm glad that with the help of Spike, that my ensembles and the music that my ensembles do can be internationally streamed around the world for
Yeah.
people like to listen to and check out. That's great.
Yeah, that's really important what he does. I mean,
Yeah,
otherwise I couldn't be able to hear that music, That's unless you're there, of course, in New York. But
and another thing too is just that with so many of the same people at the same jazz festivals all the time.
Yeah, true.
It's just like Spike. Yeah, it's just like you can hear a lot of up and coming musicians at that place. And he really gives a platform for young musicians to come out and try some stuff, and guys that haven't got a lot of play. It's a good thing.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I started this talk with band leading, and how did you decide to do the Tonal Weights record in the midst of all your chaos, playing with everyone?
Well, it hadn't really, well, that happened. The reason why I had the time to do that mostly is because that record happened like after I left Art Blakey. I was a musical director at Blakey, and I had already spoke to those people about doing a recording because I was about to leave Blakey's band. And actually, when you're playing with Art Blakey, when you leave Art Blakey's band, it's like everyone for about 1 or 2 years or 3 years still think you're playing with Art Blakey.
Exactly.
So it gave me a little space. I was actually I did a long tour with this German rock band. This guy named Howard Carpendale, and I did a long tour of Germany.
Really? Oh wow, man.
And so during that time I was doing that tour with them, like rock band. I was taking the time to write the music out for that.
Wow.
And plus, because the record company, and then at one time I was living in Germany, so the record company was in Munich, so I had a chance to. That was during the time I was like living in Europe a lot, so that was cool. So that's kind of why I got the space to do that, you know.
How did you decide? I mean, with Fred, I know you played, you know, with Henry
Yeah,
Hopkins, but what about Michael Carvin? When did you?
well, Michael Carvin and I is basically we're from the same neighborhood, basically in Houston, Texas. You know,
Okay.
his father used to play with my father.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
so that's how they knew each other. You know, so I was able to get Michael Carvin in on that. You know, so yeah, me and Michael Carvin are from the same hometown, Houston,
Right.
Texas.
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful rhythm section on that record. You know, those two guys.
Oh, I really missed Fred Hopkins playing.
Yeah,
In
he was
fact,
so good too.
Milt Hinton was hanging out with Fred at the whole record date, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's but you mentioned art, Blakey. How did the story with art begin for you? And playing with art, I mean, if you can describe, how was that like for you?
I actually I used to sit in with the band from time to time, but I actually got a call from his manager saying that Art was thinking about changing up he's going to change with the band, and he was interested for me to play trombone.
Wow.
That's how I got into the band, and yeah, that's how I joined the band. You know, this was like a little bit. I was playing with Bobby Watson's Horizon at the time.
Oh yeah.
And
Wow.
it was interesting because that particular band that I was in, it was one of the oldest configurations of the Jazz Messengers. I mean, the average age of the guys in the band was like 30 years old, to where like Art, usually the guys would be like 18, 19, 20,
Yeah.
21, you know. So because we were playing with a lot of different people. I was playing with a lot of different people, but, you know, to play with Art Blakey, you know, I could make a decent salary per year, and don't have to play with all these other people. Plus, it was Art Blakey, man. I mean, come on. You can't turn his Jazz Messengers.
Sure. How was it like touring with Art? I mean,
grueling, but I think there's a type of spirit or ancestral spirit that's hanging over that band, where like the band is ran in a certain way to where if anyone comes in, there's this protocol that you have to do. There's a way you have to bow after your solo. There's the way he really ran the band. I mean, it was an institution, you know. And by the time I joined it, you know, it was just keeping in with the tradition of the institution, you know. Yeah, there was a way that, you know, we would, even at the end of the tune, the whole band with the whole horn section would bow. You know, and it had this real good show presentation, as well as it being on a high level. So I learned that, you know, from Art, and he I'm happy to say that he had confidence in me enough to ask me, you know, to be musical director. I mean, it was Art's band, you know.
And that's
just the feeling of telling Art what tunes, you know, we're gonna do to set, you know, to go to tell Art Blakey what tunes we're gonna do in his band. It was like that was an honor right there. You know what I'm saying? You know,
how did you approach that? Actually, the role of how did you approach the role of the musical director there?
Wow, there was different ways that different people did it, you know. But I must say I kind of cheated, because I was playing with Bobby Watson, and Bobby had already been playing with Art Blakey, and he said, "Man, you know, I think Art wants you to be in this band," but he says, "That gig is not promised unless you're the musical director, you know, and nobody else that's gone in the band is going to tell you how to be the music director. I'm going to tell you how, because I've been in the band." He said, Art Blakey, as he got older, he has to take breaks, you know, and so the guy that would play the best ballad and get the most applause from the audience on a ballad is the one that he allows to be musical director. And Bobby told me to do that. So when it got my time to play a ballad, I just learned J.J. Johnson's Lament, and Art Blakey came. He wanted me to be music director. I said, well, Bobby was right. But that's, you know, I kind of cheated. That's how I got the musical director gig. After that, I had to write music for the band. Not particularly writing music for the band. Well, I wrote some of my own compositions, but the band already has a great wealth of tradition and arrangements. So all I had to do was just go back to the arrangements of the past. If I wanted to feel like there's anything I wanted to play in the past. Sometimes Art didn't want to play a lot of tunes in the past. Sometimes he wanted to play some tunes. Sometimes he didn't. And I would rehearse the band from time to time. And it was most of that. And then, but the main thing for me was like I had to take care of Art. And I was like kind of like taking care of the elderly guy. Cantankerous. Was an elderly guy, but it was Art Blakey. So there was certain protocols I had to do, make sure that he used the restroom before he played, make sure he got his bags together and stuff like that. I was kind of like helping a valet man for him too. But 2 years was enough,
Oh, sure, man. Yeah, that must have been a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also about Roy, Hargrove. You mentioned him, and he was really young then when guys started doing the quintet. Like, how did you start playing with Roy?
I knew Roy way before everybody else.
Oh, really? Oh.
Roy's from Waco, like the Dallas area, and I'm from Houston, so.
Yeah.
I met Roy when I was in high school. I met Roy like in 1977, 1978, 1976. And Roy was playing with this small group from this arts junior high school in Dallas. And they came and Roy got the main award for trumpet. He was like in the 9th grade, 8th grade, or something, 7th grade, something like that. So I knew about Roy before the whole world did. And then we did the first record on our first record on Blue Note Japan. It was called Super Blue, and that's when I got to see Roy again. That was like about 6, 7, 8 years later. So Roy, I knew about Roy. Roy knew about me. So our collaboration, me knowing Roy, it goes way back to most people. Yeah, it goes back to that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful, the records you've done. I mean, I have the vibe, the quintet. It's so nice to hear you guys,
And
we play lines together.
The thing is, I think Roy's best band. There's only one recording that hasn't been released yet. That's the one with the sextet with myself, Sherman Irby, Roy, Larry Willis, Joe Cannon, and Willie Jones III. I mean, most people know about Roy and his quintet, but when I was in the band, it was a sextet, and we recorded live at the Village Vanguard that has not been released yet.
Oh, wow.
We've also did Creosote 2 and a Creosote 3 that has not been released yet. So I know for a fact that there's some, and I heard that there's some out tracks of RH Factor that hasn't been released yet, and I know there's this Afro pop DJ named Fumi who did some stuff with Roy.
Oh wow, man!
That has not been released yet. So there's quiet as it's kept, and you can mark, and you be the first one to say this. That there is a number of Roy's music that has not been released yet that might be coming out.
Oh man, that'll be killing to hear.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know because I'm on some of it.
Oh, sure, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, we need that stuff to come out. I mean, it's not lying on some shelf or whatever.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And there's a movie about
yeah,
it.
Yeah. Came out like last year, right? Or I think it was last year. Yeah. It's nice. Frank, I also wanted to ask you, about your association with the Mingus Big Band, which has been going on for a really long time. And
Well, that's interesting because even I did do the Mingus. What do you want to ask me? I mean,
yeah,
because
how did you start doing that? And especially
actually, go
the
ahead.
story with, you know, Dominguez Sings record, which is
Okay.
really beautiful, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
what you've done there, it's
And I'll tell you the aftermath too. But actually I was playing with the McCoy Tyner big band,
sure.
and this guy Alex Foster was substituting for Joe Ford in our band. And we were playing in Pittsburgh, and Alex Foster liked how I played so much that he told Sue Mingus about me. That's how I got in the band. It's like
Mm.
1988, you know.
Oh, well,
And we just did the stuff at the time could favor. You didn't really start recording until 1992. So I was dealing with the music for about 30 plus years. But now Sue passed away, and the management has kind of changed over, and I'm still working on a certain relationship with them. That it's a long story, but the management changed hands after Sue left, and but I must say that I was happy to have the opportunity to do the Mingus Sings, you know, because they didn't know that I could sing. I was, you know, we was like on tour one time, and I was doing a jam session at the Nice Jazz Festival. They asked me to run the jam session at the Nice Jazz Festival, and I just sang some jazz tunes.
oh,
And the band said, "This guy's some sing." So they told Sue about me. So then I started dealing with the Mingus music. But I must say that it's very personal with me because not too many other people can say that they've attempted to sing Mingus's music like that. I mean,
sure.
the last ones is say Honey Gordon, and even the last ones, even a little bit recent, that was a long time ago, was Joni Mitchell.
Mm. Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm very happy that I'm able to interpret Mingus's music like that on vocal. You know, even though I don't particularly call myself a jazz singer. I'm more comfortable singing R&B, you know.
Mm.
But since I was familiar with the Mingus music, we tried it, and I think it came off pretty well.
Oh man, it's a beautiful. I listened to it today, and it's just like, you know, Portrait and that Weird Nightmare and those. It's such a nice record, man. It's really nice.
Yeah.
You should do more of singing actually, like that.
My mother thought I was a better singer than I was a musician. So, you know, my mother would thank you from that, from heaven, you know. She always thought I was a better singer than I was a musician, you know.
But cool. Well, oh, Frank, yeah, I wanted to ask you about your also, you know, your big band playing with McCoy and Julius Hemphill, and especially, I
Wow.
mean, both those two guys, those are like, you know, especially Julius, again, one of those underrated heroes of music.
Exactly.
I
Well, the
mean,
thing is, see, Julius is from Texas, like I am.
oh yeah.
Julius was from Border Town, Texas. Actually, it's the border town of Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas. It's near a place called it's like a suburb of this town called Texarkana.
Mm,
Because the town is called Texarkana because it's on the border of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So this is Texarkana. So I know, you know, I've been I was told from a lot of older musicians from Houston to look for Julius Hemphill. So I've been looking for Julius Hemphill for a while.
mm.
Uh, uh, Even though a lot of people talk about how great he was as a saxophone player, he was just as great as a composer and
Oh man,
arranger.
yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, as you will see at record. And McCoy Tyner band is kind of like I kind of earned a PhD from that band because I was like the youngest person in that band, and just these older musicians, man, I just learned so much, you know. And so I, you know, that was a special moment for me. You know, I was like the baby of the band, you know, like I was with the Illinois Jacket. You know, that's why I say, man, you know, I'm not complaining. I've been blessed, man. I've been, you know, I've played with a lot. I played with, you know, even a lot of the great jazz musicians that are great band leaders that's in my generation. I know that I've had the opportunity to play with a way more wide array of musicians of different genres than them. So, the cosmos have put me in a certain place by myself.
Mm.
And in these times, I feel good with it. I play, trombone, tuba,
Yeah.
French horn, trombone. I bring them all, and I, like Blakey said this. He said, "If you take care of the music will take care of you."
Yeah.
And man, you ever so right, man.
That's so beautifully put. Yeah. So true. Yeah. Frank, not to take more of your time, I just wanted to ask you, like, what's happening for you until the end of this year, playing wise, touring wise? I mean, are you coming to Europe maybe at one point, or I mean, what are the?
I'm probably gonna come to Europe soon, probably next year, hopefully. With my own band. I would like to come with my tromboniverse, because I really like that band. But I'm just doing a lot of gigs here in the States, making sure I keep my bands tight and smalls, and I'm really happy that I'm able to like teach the history of African American music. So it's not just the history of jazz. I got to go into hip hop, funk, go, rock and roll, and it's even drill music, rap music, and that's it's. I think at my age right now, I really needed to be teaching this course because it kind of psychologically keeps me cool too. And plus, I could, tell about my experiences.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, you left marks in every. Yeah.
And everyone at the conservatory is running to get in my courses because I don't flunk nobody. I try to give them no less than a B minus. You know what I mean? So it's an easy course and plus it's a fun course and the up course. So it recruits people there. So it's kind of funny, but it's cool.
Beautiful. Yeah. Cool.
Hey man, I really thank you for I thank you for doing this. It's like the thing is like certain cats recognize me, and certain cats it's like I'm kind of under the radar, but I'm kind of not under the radar. It's like, it's like, I don't know, it's like I say, I'm like in this place all by myself, and I've been here for a while, and I'm good with it.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
Oh no, that definitely. I mean, for me, it's like thanks for taking the time, but you played with your own records and you've done work with so many of these greats that we talked about today. And, when I listen even now, like to the records with Henry,
yes,
from like 88, man, and it sounds as modern as it was recorded yesterday. Really, man. It's like,
doesn't it? And the thing why I'm doing is like, I'm beginning to see that certain people, certain promoters, certain people around the world, like you, are beginning to notice it. So say, okay, well, I can't stay under the radar now. I'm busted.
Yeah, no, but it's just like so many of guys like yourself who've been doing it for 40 plus years, and and it's just like I think deserve wider recognition in a sense of
Thank you.
And I hope at least this is a drop in the sea, but it's something
Thank you. But I must say this: one has to be aware of it. That's what I'm saying, and you're aware of it. There's some people that are aware of it, so kudos to you, man.
Thanks, man, for the music, and I hope to catch you on a gig in Europe soon. So
okay, thank you very much. And
thanks so much, man.
Contact.
Take care. Thank you.
Anytime you come to New York, call me up, man.
I will. Thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Ciao.